do you have a book project in the future, or what is there
No,
more?
I'm doing right now, kind of under the radar screen. I'm part of a large team of medical professionals forming a holistic response to heart disease, kidney disease, and cancer. And within that initiative, I'm creating a mindfulness podcast series for people adopting a plant-based diet to address these issues. And so that's like my kind of project of the year is this podcast series. And that podcast series will be available. The organization is called MedChefs, and that, for clients of MedChefs, that podcast series will be a support. When I have a break from that action with MedChefs, I want to do the podcast series on the Yoga Sutras that will be available to the public, and that'll be like my next project over and above just like having a job teaching yoga. Yeah.
That sounds super cool. Yeah, well, we can have that conversation sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Well, as we sort of kind of wind down, is there anything? I mean, I'll ask you about some of your upcoming events, but beyond that, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I guess the flow of events in your yoga practice comes down to, as I kind of am living into this and teaching it, it's the first thing you're doing in yoga is you're healing your relationship to the present moment. Without this, nothing else works. It's kind of like if you're, doing a 12-step program, you got to stop using. As long as you're using, you're not going to really get what the program's about. But in the clarity of sobriety, you'll start to understand what the rest of it's for. Similarly, in yoga, you have to heal your relationship to the present moment. This isn't to mean that you have like seamless present moment awareness 24/7, but not only do you know when you're present and when you're not, you're starting to be present more often than not. And this would be healing your relationship to the present moment. The present moment becomes your kind of default go-to setting. And you're not really making choices from or trusting the information you're deriving in a disconnected state, which makes sense. Connection is your go-to state. Once you're well in the way of healing your relationship to the present moment, you discover the truth of who you are. Eric Schiffman famously said that we're moving into stillness to experience the truth of who we are. As we become increasingly familiar with the present, we start to understand that we're not our thoughts and we're not our stories, that we're the presence that we experience in the present moment. There's a presence that we encounter in the present moment, and that presence is who we are. And that is a radical process of slowly dawning, of light dawning on Marblehead. Like that's a radical, wow, I'm that presence. There's always this presence I come back into this presence when I come back to the present moment, and I'm that presence. It's a big topic. But as you come to really see the truth of who you are, that you're not the stories, you're not the fears, the doubts, the insecurities, you're the presence that you encounter in the present moment, and that's your true nature, and that's always been your true nature, then this third level is you start to heal your relationship to what you think you're capable of. If you're identified with that mind-made self, then it's like you against the world. You're like the wave that's forgotten the ocean. But then by healing your relationship to yourself, you realize that there is no you against the world. There is no you against life. You are life. And everything you do is infused with the power of life itself, and will be acting upon life itself. There'll be this kind of coordination, this divine support. Any effort, everything you put out in the world will be supported by, you are life supported by life. This is a very different scenario than you against the world. And so I just, 30 years into this, you're like, Rolf, what have you learned? I'm like, well, yoga heals your relationship to the present moment. In so doing, you heal your relationship to yourself. In so doing, you heal your relationship to what you're capable of. And I think that's an important message today because human beings are very challenged. We need to solve the problems facing us, and we need to believe that we're capable of it. We're capable of rising to the challenge of climate change. We're capable of rising to the challenge of an ever-growing human population and all of the challenges that we face because of that, and working together and growing together. And yoga is healing our relationship ultimately with what we think we're capable of. And we're going to have to believe we're capable of meeting these challenges before we can meet them. Mm-hmm. And so I can't think of a more important place to start, rising to the occasion of the 21st century than this process.
Yeah. Yes. I couldn't agree more, and that was so well said. And we could probably take this conversation on an even deeper well for another hour, but I won't put you through that. But I would like to know if there's any events you have coming up you want to highlight. And I know you do retreats around different places in the world, and workshops and teacher trainings and conferences. And
I'll just name a few. So every year I do a yoga and surfing retreat in Costa Rica. This year it'll be starts on December 14th. So that's like a morning of surfing and an afternoon and evening of yoga every day for a week in the Costa Rican West Coast. So it's just a gorgeous place to be in December. So you can go to rolfgates.com for that. I'm doing New Year's Eve this year at Crapalo. I do it every other year, so this is one of my years. And I bring Ida Jo as a singer-songwriter from Wisconsin and her band. So there's live acoustic music throughout, New Year's Eve weekend of yoga and meditation. We do a midnight meditation at the turn of the year, which is quite an experience for people. I'll be doing Communities Rising is coming to Indianapolis. I'll be with Nikki Myers, and we'll be, we know that we're starting in March. The dates are to be TBD, but they'll be D'd very soon. I guess it's TBA. They'll be announced very soon. But yeah, we're coming to Indianapolis in March. And that's like it's 8 weekends starting in March for 200-hour YT training. And then finally, we do the Yoga and Recovery Conference. It'll be on the West Coast coming up in October at Esalen, and then we'll be on the East Coast at the end of May at Crapalo in Massachusetts. And so we do that every year. So those are some events coming up as we got the Esalen Recovery Conference happening in October in Big Sur, California, and we have the Crapalo Recovery Conference taking place on the East Coast in starts Memorial Day weekend and goes for 5 days in Massachusetts. So that's what I got.
Wow.
Big picture stuff.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, and that is, it sounds like you're, as usual, have a very full calendar and packing a lot into the stream of life, as they say. Mm-hmm. So, it's really just a pleasure to listen to you and speak with you. And I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. And we do welcome our audience to send us comments, subscribe, give us a rating. And I do hope that we can get you on this show again. And, maybe sometime next year and kind of see how some of these projects and events and things unfold. And so that would be awesome. So thank you so much for being a part of the Yoga Voice and taking the time out to record this podcast today.
Oh, you're welcome. And it was really an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Yoga Voice, brought to you by City Yoga, School of Yoga and Health, where we are committed to exploring how yoga inspires and transforms. Find out more at www.cityyoga.biz. That's CITYOGA.biz. Special thanks to our producer, Brian Sims, for his audio expertise.